Your teams, the biggest stories. Join Mike Davis and Mariah Janos live at 2 p.m. daily here on Silver State Sports as they tackle the biggest stories in Vegas sports. And, of course, we broadcast across Canada on Game Plus TV. Scott Belford joining us from the Walk Off podcast, also a stand-up comedian, which I love. Where are you joining us today from, Scott?
I am actually in Halifax right now. I'm playing the club here, Halifax Live Friday, Saturday. So let's start with a little plug there. Nicely done.
I love it. I love it. Absolutely. And before we even get to the sports, I do want to talk about comedy in a second. But I'm not sure you've been on with us since we've gone to air across Nevada. So would you mind telling our Nevada viewers just your story in 45 seconds or less?
Sure, absolutely. I started in radio and eventually had to MC a comedy show as the radio host. And as I was doing that weekly, sort of fell in love with the idea of telling jokes and getting laughs. And that's the difference between radio and stand up, right? Instant gratification. So I kind of fell in love with the instant laugh of it all. And yeah, eventually moved to a big city to pursue stand up comedy. And now I'm 18 years into this.
I love
Whether it's
it.
a poor choice or not, time will tell.
and doing the walk off podcast and a really good job of it. I love your baseball analysis. But I want to say this. I went to a spiritual fair in West Palm Beach about a month or so ago, and one of the ladies that was putting it on, she's like, "Go home and watch something funny tonight." And I fell into this deep dive of old videos on Instagram of Rodney Dangerfield, Larry the
Oh,
Cable Guy. Oh, I'm just laughed. I laughed. I laughed. Who? I don't know if Dangerfield's my favorite, but he's up there. Who is your favorite all-time stand-up comic?
favorite all-time stand-up. I mean, honestly, it's very similar to listening to music pretty extensively, as it does change as you grow and you
Mm-hmm.
develop new tastes and stuff. Right now, I'm just a big fan of Bill Burr and his anti-billionaire
Mm.
stuff, and is just like, I know he's the biggest comic in the world right now, but I get a real kick out of that old man playing the angry old man card all the time. It is a fun one. But growing up, I just some of the comics that I love the most growing up are no longer to be mentioned. I was a big Cosby man when I was a little kid,
Yeah,
and I'd
yeah,
play his records. And I remember going to a live show with my grandma and just how he kind of broke down generations and being able to appeal to such a wide age range was really great and very cool to me. And then I always loved Carlin too, George Carlin, just how he progressed throughout his career. He was so goofy and silly and fun in the 70s, and then went through his divorce and his drug habit in the 80s, and then was anti-government in the 90s. It was just a really fun arc to watch a guy constantly change.
Well, I had the original Andrew Dice Clay cassette, and I left it in my car,
Okay.
like in the deck in my car. And my dad was driving my car one morning, and he comes home. He's like, "You like that guy?" And I'm like, "Dad, he's not serious. Yeah, he's hilarious, but he's like the filthiest comic of all time." Dad was like, "How could I even have raised you?" Anyways, enough of all of that. Scott, are the Blue Jays going back to the World Series? That was our poll question yesterday, and 55% of respondents said yes. What would you vote?
Boy, there's a lot of Canadians in this poll, obviously. Listen, I'm an eternal optimist, and after last year's run, it just reinvigorated the love of baseball in the Great White North, right? And so there were so many Blue Jays fans whose fandom had been pushed down because they were such a bad team for so long and just didn't really give everyone a chance to like bite their teeth into it and really get to fall in love with that team. And that's what happened last year. I think that they are on paper going into this year a better team, a more well-rounded team, a deeper team than they were last year. But Rod,
Mm.
baseball. It is such a battle of attrition. It's 162 games. The Blue Jays are in the most difficult division in all of baseball in the AL East. The Yankees are still absolute behemoths. The Red Sox are better than they were last year. There's no way the Orioles underperform again like they did last season. And of course, the Tampa Bay Rays, it's tough to even write them off. So they're in a real battle just to win this division again. Do I think they're going to make the playoffs? I really, truly do. I think that there isn't, they'd need some really bad juju and some really bad injuries to not at least get to the dance again, to at least give themselves the opportunity to get to the World Series. That said, if I was putting my money on it, I probably give the Blue Jays a 25% chance coming out of the American League, which is a 1 out of 4. It's pretty good.
Do you put any stock at all in the power rankings? And the reason I ask is I follow the NFL, NHL, and CFL very deeply, and MLB when the Jays are winning. That's just me. I'm
Hmm.
just being honest. So I don't need to go to the power rankings from the other leagues. I can see it myself. But when I read the MLB power rankings, they're kind of all over the place, and a lot of them have the Jays winning the East, just the pennant. And they got, by the way, with Nevada getting the Athletics soon, I was mentioning at the top of the show, the Athletics were ranked 22nd in most power rankings that I saw. Blue Jays were sixth. Do you go along with those?
First of all, I would love to hear your opinion after I'm finished because my opinion is that the power rankings are pretty irrelevant. I think they give a rough idea of the pulse of where the game is at. That said, I don't follow them too closely or buy too much into it. Personally, I actually think the Athletics are going to be better than they're touted this year. I think the Athletics are probably going to take another step forward. We watched them definitely put more wins on the board last year than maybe a lot of pundits had given them credit for possibly being able to do. And I love that the Athletics, not that this is supposed to be an athletics segment, but you brought them up. I like all of the extensions that they've done with this young core of players they've got. I think that the Toronto Blue Jays sometimes get overlooked in power rankings just because they are the redheaded stepchild from the north. So are they higher in my rankings than sixth? I kind of think they are. I think that they're right there with the Yankees and the Mariners for top seed in the American League, and I think that they're right there with the Dodgers and the Mets and some of those heavy hitters in the National League.
Bro, you could talk for 20 minutes about the Athletics if you want because we're airing in Nevada and that's the A's are coming to this channel, Silver State Sports. They'll be carrying the games. So yeah, absolutely, by all means. And it's fun to talk baseball. I mean, that's the one thing I get from our viewers, especially the new ones. Like, this show is so refreshing. You're not talking about all the same as all the other channels. I'm like, yeah, whatever. We enjoy it. It works for us. And by the way, some of the viewers have comedy questions for you, so I will get to that in a second. I'm with you. You don't need to, with the power rankings being bunk. I only talk about it because everybody talks about it. But did anybody have Seattle and New England meeting in the Super Bowl? None of the pundits had that.
No.
Like nobody.
Did
Right?
anyone have
So don't
Seattle
need.
and the Blue Jays meeting in the ALCS? Like, no.
No, not at all. No, not at all. And actually, speaking of all that, speaking of Seattle, you saw the hubbub between Randy Rosiana and Cal Raleigh coming out of the World Baseball Classic. And I kind of wonder what your take was on the WBC because I'm sitting here in South Florida. It was the mecca of it all. The final was here. The biggest games were here. It was awesome. But I'm here.
Personally,
How did it feel? Yeah. What did you
personally,
think of it?
Rod, I absolutely loved it. I think it's really growing as one of the international sports tournaments out there into something that people want to see. When it first came out, it really played second fiddle to a lot of those other international tournaments. When you're talking like stuff like way behind FIFA, way behind hockey. When you're talking the Olympics, way behind a lot of these other international sports, and they've done a really good job of building this up and making the world care about it. And honestly, after watching the WBC this year, going back to watching spring training games, ugh, disgusting. I was like, I want nothing to do with spring training games after seeing these guys who are like playing for their country and care, giving it their all in March. And it's tough to find folks giving it their all in March in baseball.
People said that about the Olympics with the hockey. They got all ramped up with that, and then they got to watch NHL regular season. I totally get it. But the one thing that annoys me a lot, and a lot of things annoy me, Scott, that's why I meditate. But they want to move the WBC to the midseason. And I'm like, why would you do this? You've just had the biggest ratings ever. You've had sold out ballparks. Let's move it. What the hell's wrong with these guys? What would you vote on in the timing of it for the next one?
I get both sides of it because I do understand the idea of moving it to the middle of the season because their pitchers are going to be ramped up. They're going to be at full strength. They're going to be in midseason form. So the baseball is just going to be better. It's going to be very similar to when hockey did their mid season shutdown and went to the Olympics. But also, I hate the killing of momentum of a season like a mid-season stop does, right? It's bad enough in baseball that they shut it down for the All-Star break for 9-10 days, right? Like I just let's it's a long enough season as it is. I mean, baseball as it is just you better not overreact to everything, the little thing that happens.
Yeah, well, here's welcome to my life. So if it was up to the marketing people, they'll keep it where it is. If it was up to the baseball people, they'll move it, and the marketing people usually get their way. So I think it'll
Yeah.
stay where it is. But
Yeah.
when you ask how do I feel about the power rankings, I go back and forth because the pundits and the guys in the press box are all talking about power rankings. I don't care what the league is, NFL, NHL, they all are. But then you go down and talk to the
Mhm.
coaches. What do you think of the power rankings? They're like, what the hell are you paying attention to that for? They don't mean anything.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. Oh, why do I keep getting sucked into this all the time? But that's what happens when you go back and forth between the two worlds because they don't talk. They don't talk just when they get together for interviews, but they're not friends. Anyways, um, New York sports teams, Mets and Yankees. Yankees kind of going to always be there, and the Mets still trying to buy a World Series. Are they going to have a sniff this year?
I kind of like what the New York Mets did this offseason. I think that they really revamped the. And listen, it's easy to dismiss chemistry in sports,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, is it really a thing? Is there such a thing as a good locker room? And I think that locker room chemistry does really depend on how much you're winning as well. But there is obviously something off in that Mets locker room. So I think moving some of their core pieces like Brandon Nemo over to Texas and bringing in an experienced guy, a veteran dude like Marcus Semien, I think a fresh face in Bo Bichette. I mean, how he plays third base is still to be determined, but my goodness, is that ever a big bat to add to the middle of that lineup? I think Pete Alonso moving on is just going to give them a fresh feel, and that's really what I think the Mets needed. Now, the payroll is insane, Rod. Like, you are well aware, you can look at the numbers and be like, a team paying this much money for their team should have a lot more wins than they did in 2025. And so obviously you got to play the games, but my prediction is that the Mets bounce back from last season. They're back in the playoffs and they're putting a winning product on the field. How they play out in the playoffs, how this all winds up in the end, time will tell, but just on paper and my gut feeling is that they're going to be a much better team this year.
Well, it is a Dodgers worthy payroll. You're right, but without the results, it's wild. Greg in Calgary's watching. He says, "Hey Rod, can you ask Scott which dark horse team can make a run?" I guess the Jays would have been that team last year. Do you see somebody coming out? Everybody's giving the Dodgers the NL. Are they not?
Yeah, everyone seems to be giving the Dodgers the NL, but you know what? There are some teams that I am very curious about. I really like what the Cincinnati Reds are doing, and they're in kind of a weaker division in that NL Central. I like the addition of Eugenio Suarez. That puts a real power bat in the middle of that lineup, and they did it for $14 million on a 1-year contract, and I'm sure you feel the same way, and maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think there's such a thing as a bad 1-year contract, especially
No.
even though some people think that it's taking a bit of a risk with him being 34. But, he hit 50 home runs last year. Let's see what he does, right? So I like the Reds. And then in the AL, I think that the Tigers could be a much better team than people are giving them credit for. I know everyone's expecting them to move Tarek Skubal come the trade deadline, but I think they're going to be in the hunt for that Central Division again. The AL Central is also a weak division, and I think that they have the pitching going out and getting Framber Valdez on in free agency, and then having Skubal, one of the best pitchers in all of baseball, as a 1-2, both from the left-hand side. Pretty scary stuff. And if the Tigers can put some offense together on the field, I think that they could surprise some people.
Next time we'll talk about the looming work stoppage. They just told me we only got 2 minutes, so I think we have a little
Yeah.
more than 2 minutes actually. Corey, can you check the time? Actually, I will ask because you can't. Everybody brings up the MLB season. Yeah. So, is there going to be this the last baseball season for a while or what? We will ask that, and then I'll ask you the comedy question.
So I won't go into too many details. I know we're tight on time here, but I do worry that after all of this good progress baseball has made to put itself back as one of the top sports when it comes to viewership. All of the rule
Hmm.
changes to cut down time, all of the interest and the how the game is skewing younger and younger and bringing in young fans again for the first time in so long. It is worrisome to see all of a sudden this coming to a head again. You know, like I was a kid in 94, and honestly, Rod, I stopped watching baseball for almost until my early 20s. Like it really did ruin it for me for like 8, 9 years of just like so it would be devastating if they did. Do I think that they're going to really push it? Yes, I do. Whether they're going to,
Mm.
they'll miss actual baseball. I don't think they'll miss the whole season, but I mean, baseball's great at screwing themselves over. So, I mean, we'll see.
Money, the root of all evil. Scott Belford, stand-up
Yes.
comic and host of the Walk-Off podcast. John Ohm in Winnipeg wants to know if you're coming through Winnipeg. Can you give us your tour sched here coming up?
I am actually coming through Winnipeg. I'm going to be there May 7th. I'm still waiting on the venue to firm up, so I'm not 100% where I'm playing, but then I'm going to be at the brewery in Gimli, Manitoba, and I'm also playing Brandon, Manitoba. So for all the Manitoba listeners, yeah, absolutely. 7th, 8th, 9th of May. Come check it out.
Oh, wow, Scott Belford. Okay, well, and between now and then, what's popping? You're in Halifax tonight. What club are you at for people that want to
So,
go?
in Halifax, I'm playing Halifax Live, they're called. I'm in Bedford playing Propeller Brewery on Thursday, so before the weekend here. And then I fly back to Alberta. I'm playing a casino in Grand Prairie. I've got a show in Saskatchewan, in Eston. Yeah, Eston,
Nice.
Saskatchewan. Yes.
Not to be confused with
And
Estevan, home of the
not to
Eston
be
Ramblers.
confused with
Yep.
Estevan. Don't you confuse those two.
Yeah.
No, for sure. And
Yeah.
then, yeah, and then back to Toronto for some shows.
Wow. Okay, 2 minutes left, he tells me. So, where can people check out your stuff, Scott?
Well, you can see my stuff if you go to the Belf on Instagram. That's where you're going to find a lot of my reels and a lot of my stuff like that. You can also check out the podcast. And honestly, I'm on the road so much, Rod. I play places all. I tour Canada nonstop. I do cruise ships pretty regularly, so I'm around.
All right. Well, somewhere between all of that, you find time to host the Walk Off podcast. And what do you got going on there lately?
So we actually have from Sportsnet joining us, Show Ali on the Friday show here. I run a show every single Tuesday and every single Friday. Every Friday is a guest, whether it's an analyst or a ball player. I also run these live shows called Baseball Town. I had one in Dunedin for spring training in March, sold it out. We had Davis Schneider and Riley Tirada and a couple other guys from the minor league system on the show, and then some of the top analysts. So if you're in Toronto, I run those Baseball Town shows all summer long. So keep an eye out for that because they're always a ton of fun. Kind of
I
integrating what I do live entertainment wise with the podcast side of things. It's fun.
Yeah, awesome. And I saw that it was sold out, so good for you. Well, break a leg tonight. Thanks for the time as always. Keep in touch and enjoy the baseball.
Always a pleasure, Mr. Pedersen. Whenever I get to talk to you, I know it's my favorite time of the year. So it's good to see you.
And he's a good fibber too. Scott Belford, stand-up comic and host of the Walk Off podcast. Everybody appreciate. Go check him out. We'll be coming right back with a sports update and viewer takeover the rest of the way. You're watching the RP show on Silver State Sports across Nevada and across Canada on Game Plus TV.